Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Max Domi signing a 4-year contract extension worth $3.75 million per season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this is one of many videos that I've uploaded to the channel this morning because I wanted to catch up on all the news. So make sure to go check that out. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like, subscribe, go watch the other videos. But for now, Max Domi. He's 29 years old, turning 30 towards the end of this upcoming season. So by the end of the 4-year deal, he'll be 33. In 80 games with the Maple Leafs last season, he had 47 points. But towards the end of the year is where he really found a home playing next to Austin Matthews after Mitch Marner went down with an injury. He had 15 points in those 17 games to end the season, including 13 assists. Aside from being a belligerent pest that'll get under your skin from time to time, he'll also drop the gloves, but he's also a versatile player. You know, he can play both the wing and down the middle like we saw him do in the playoffs against the Bruins. But if there's one thing you need to know about Max Domi is that he's a very, very good playmaker. How good? The only player in the NHL last year that had more assists per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 was Connor McDavid. For the majority of the year, Max Domi was sitting around 13 minutes of time on ice per game. But when he got that opportunity to play next to Matthews after Marner went down with the injury, his ice time was up almost 2.5 minutes per game. So if he's going to play between 15 and 16 minutes this upcoming season as opposed to just 13 for the majority of last year, it's not hard to see how this player can go from 47 points to, let's say, 55 to 60. Now, when Domi was playing up on that top line with Austin Matthews, the third member of that line for the majority of the time was Tyler Bertuzzi. And the three of those players, when they played together, were phenomenal. And I understand there's a lot of numbers up on the screen right now. If you want to pause the video to look at all the numbers, you can. But I'm going to try to do my best to explain what's going on here. So like we just said, when Bertuzzi, Matthews, and Domi were playing together for the Leafs towards the end of the season, they were an amazing line. But if we isolate that trio to just be a duo of Matthews and Bertuzzi, without Max Domi, their numbers playing together, they look good, but they're not as good. And then if we do it again, but we're looking at Matthews and Domi without Bertuzzi, the numbers are the worst of the three combinations here. And then the fourth thing on this chart here is Max Domi's numbers without either of Matthews, Bertuzzi, and also Kampf as well. I felt it wasn't really fair to Domi to include the numbers with David Kampf there because why in the world was he playing with David Kampf? Does that make any sense? No. These numbers were just average. They're just okay. And when you look at Domi's numbers without Matthews, Bertuzzi, or Kampf, because they're just average and okay, and you look at the difference in the numbers for the duos here, Matthews and Bertuzzi, Matthews and Domi, we can kind of conclude that when this trio was together, it was more than likely Tyler Bertuzzi and Austin Matthews driving the success of that line. But still, when Domi was the third man playing next to them, this line got significantly better. And so to me, that suggests that while Domi isn't driving the line, he is a very good complementary piece. And when you just look at those two players, Tyler Bertuzzi and Austin Matthews, the thing that those two players would be missing is a playmaker. And like we've already established, Max Domi is a very, very damn good one. And after Max Domi re-signed with the Maple Leafs on Sunday morning, Darren Dreger tweeted out that it sounds like Tyler Bertuzzi will no longer be returning to the Toronto Maple Leafs and that his price is just going to be too high. And in looking at the Maple Leafs roster over the last couple of weeks and knowing how much cap space they had to sign and looking at the other holes on their roster, it's always sort of felt like it was going to be one or the other. And in the previous video, I had said, if it came down to one or the other, I would prefer Tyler Bertuzzi, especially if he was coming at a discount because, like we just showed, he's able to drive the success of his line, while Max Domi is more of a complementary player. If Bertuzzi was willing to sign for $4.5 million or less than $5 million, I'm sure the Maple Leafs would have picked him over Max Domi. But at the same time, it sounds like he's going to be signing for over $5 million a year. And at that point, I think I would rather have Max Domi. A lot of that has to do with Domi just being cheaper than Bertuzzi, right? You can get a good, useful player and still have more money to allocate to the rest of your roster because the Leafs do have a number of holes to fill this summer. But like we mentioned earlier, he's quite a versatile player, right? If Austin Matthews goes down with an injury in the playoffs and you need someone to play center, Max Domi can do that. Ideally, he plays on the wing, but in a pinch, he won 66% of his faceoffs against the Bruins. He was on the ice for 5 of the 12 goals that they scored in that series, and he came up big for them when they needed him the most. It's not like he won them the series or anything like that, but he came up big for them in the playoffs. And while all of that is true, the one thing that I will say here is the trio of players that Max Domi was able to be the most successful with, other than when he was playing with Matthews and Bertuzzi, was Nick Robertson and Calle Jarnkrok. So in that instance, he was playing center, but still, the percentages look good here. But in terms of the actual results and the quantity and quality of scoring opportunities that were generated, it's disappointing for a player who's is supposed to have primarily an offensive skill set, who's supposed to be a very good playmaker. I'm not really interested in seeing this player play in the bottom six. I'm not really interested in seeing this player play center unless they absolutely need him to. I am interested, however, in seeing him play next to Austin Matthews and further developing that chemistry. And if they can find somebody else to replace Tyler Bertuzzi to play on the other side there, that would be good, because then you can spread the depth that you have out throughout the rest of the lineup. Another reason why I would prefer Max Domi to Tyler Bertuzzi, especially if you're going to be signing this player to a long-term deal, is because he played 80 games this year with the Maple Leafs, but that's the most he's ever played in his NHL career. This guy has a laundry list of injuries, including having back surgery just 3 seasons ago. And after having it, he continued to miss games with other injuries. It's not like Chris Tanev, for example, who had a history of injuries towards the beginning of his career, but for the last 5 years or so, he's only missed like 5 games a year or whatever it is. He's still working through being healthy every single season. And a 4-year deal might make me nervous. And I'm not going to sit here and act like the guy took the Jason Spezza or Mark Giordano type discount and signed for almost league minimum or anything like that. But also, you told me on July 1st that Max Domi would have signed a deal for $4 million, 4.25, even $4.5 million somewhere else. I could have believed you. But, the Maple Leafs have had a number of guys come through here over the last couple of years that, they've grown up in the greater Toronto area. They have all these stories about watching the team when they were younger, and they're telling us that they are one of us. They're a Leafs fan. But then the second they have an opportunity to leave, they're gone. So credit to this guy who came in here. He pulled on a lot of heartstrings. Obviously, his dad, Ty, was beloved when he played here. His godfather is Matt Sundin. He grew up here. He told us he was one of us. And I'm not going to pretend like the guy didn't take, a discount. I'm not going to pretend like he didn't, because he did. It's small, but still, there were concessions made on both sides. And on top of that, like we showed earlier on in the video, but when he did get an opportunity to play with Austin Matthews, 15 points in 17 games, 13 assists. He clearly had some chemistry with him, and that means something, right? Over the last 3 or 4 years, the Maple Leafs have tried a laundry list of players playing next to both Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, and we've seen that not just anybody can do it. Nick Foligno, Joe Thornton, Alex Galchenyuk, Jimmy Vesey, Nick Ritchie, if I didn't already say him. All of those guys were complete disasters. And the Maple Leafs found not just one, but 2 guys in Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi that had some real chemistry with Austin Matthews. It would have been nice to keep both of them. But they did keep one of them, and that's a good thing. But that's gonna be it for this one. So make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more, because there are more videos on the channel this morning. If you're just watching this one, there's like 2 or 3 other ones, because there's been a ton of news over the last couple of days, and there will continue to be. So if there's an update, I will leave a pinned comment on this video if there is an update relevant to anything that we've talked about. But if you did like it, like I said, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and go watch another video. Go watch another one. There's more.